welcome everybody here to the X-Bomb Sports Live Show. My name is Andrew Valentin, and I hope you're all having a wonderful, even though it might be a wacky Wednesday. We are coming to you live here from the Illinois Media School here in Lombard, Illinois. Again, wherever it is for you, ladies and gentlemen, Darren, I hope it is just right. And with me, as usual, he is back once again, the ever promiscuous yet ever suctuary.
What the hell does that even mean?
I just made that word up.
I think you just
there you
made
go.
it up.
Because I didn't know what else to say. Drew Gwillem, folks, is here with me as always. Drew,
yeah,
how you doing,
whatever
man?
the hell he said.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. How you doing, buddy?
Wow. A lot happened in the last couple days.
Absolutely. I mean, folks, it is going to be a one-sided show on this one, all NFL talk, because there is just too much going down. Drew.
But anyways, to answer your question, good. It was good to see all this crazy stuff happen.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Well, without further ado, my friend, are you ready to get into this chaos, this insanity, this absolute mayhem that we've been exposed to?
Is that a rhetorical question?
I mean, it could be, but I'll ask you for real. Are you?
Yeah.
Well, then, folks, let's get into it. And the first half, we are kicking this one off with, as we have to, Aaron Rodgers. That's right. The infamous Karen man himself is officially. Sorry, it just.
I know. I'm sad. I'm sad
he's still in the NFC North. Yeah. Even though, yes, I have ripped myself out of there, but nevertheless, I care for my Bears fans.
Never ending.
Yep. Aaron Rodgers signs a 4-year, $200 million deal, which will pay him out big time, making him the highest paid player in NFL history with a $150 million guaranteed. So a very large contract. The stipulations of the contract are starting to kind of leak out. From what we understand about this contract is that obviously what looks like a big number is not exactly what we think it is. We'll kind of pour into that a little bit more here. But Drew, obviously wearing the hat that you wear, being in the city that you are in, what are your thoughts on Aaron Rodgers getting this mega deal, this massive Mondo-centric contract from the Packers?
I've said it before, and I'm going to say it again. Aaron Rodgers, you're a dick. Okay? I'm not very happy about it.
Yeah.
Obviously.
Of course.
He owns us. He said it. It's happened. His record against the Bears is in his favor by far.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm not happy he's staying in the division, but the contract of what's shown is leaked, but he says that that's not it. So who really knows exactly what it's going to be? Can't sign anything until the new league year starts anyway. Mm-hmm. So probably the way everything's been going with him, we won't find out until the new league year starts what the official contract is. But I mean, it sucks. It sucks as a Bears fan having him in the division still. I kind of felt like after the end of the season went the way it did, and then things went on a little bit, it felt more and more like he was gonna stay.
Right.
And of course he had to. He probably knew it the whole time, and again wanted to be a dick and put it off as long as he could. So not thrilled, but the man's getting paid. He's gonna get paid big time. So he's got a few more years left in him, but we'll see if he could actually do anything in the playoffs for a change. So.
Yeah, absolutely. It's really gonna. I mean, there's a lot that obviously is gonna go into this contract, right? When it comes to Aaron Rodgers, this is a lot of money to a guy that yes, has won a Super Bowl, has 4 MVPs, but you haven't made an NFC championship or you haven't won an NFC championship since 2010. You haven't really been in a sufficient place in the playoffs, really, as far as being in that elite status since last year when you were against the Bucs, and whatever happened, but you clearly had a chance to win it, and then you lost it at the end. So that's always going to be a big question mark. But like you said, this is a lot of money certainly to give Aaron Rodgers, but to also be perfectly honest too here as well, Aaron Rodgers, like we said, the money on this thing is a little bit different than what we would think, right? Sounds high, but if you hear that number of $153 million guaranteed, what that does essentially is make the entire contract front loaded. So that money is now guaranteed, which means that kind of spaces out the money a little bit more, takes the cap hit off of Aaron Rodgers as well, and allows more money to be freed up for the Packers to be able to sign maybe a specific wide receiver, potentially, if I'm not mistaken, who is obviously a part of this deal. I mean, with this cap, I mean, listen, the Packers are still in a very hard cap position right now, but this certainly relieves a lot of that extra possibility to help them sign a player like Davante Adams, which is kind of the deal, right? He's been franchise tagged. We know that. And now he's set up to have not only the tag be on him, but he can also get that sweet deal that he's been looking for. But I ask you this, Drew. Obviously, the way that the Packers have structured this, it's certainly like, I'll say this, bravo to them for being able to work out the money situation for sure. But it still feels like at some point this all bottlenecks up to a point where this Green Bay is going to be squeezed. And I don't think Aaron Rodgers really cares about that. I don't even know if Davante really cares about that. But if these two guys were to get paid, do you think that the Packers could somehow find sustainable success knowing that you've paid your quarterback and now you're going to pay your top-end wide receiver? We've seen what these guys can do together. They're very good together. We know that, right? We know that they're a great combination. But do you think that because of where they're going to be signed potentially, because Davante's he's measured at around like $30 million a year, I believe, or so. I don't know if he'll get that, but he's around that number. Do you think that the Packers potentially could have the ability to then still get in the playoffs, be a competitive team, and maybe make one last go for a championship at some point?
Sure, they have a shot at it. They've look at their record over the last couple seasons.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's a regular season record, and the record that really matters is the playoff record at the end of the year if you are able to get there.
Right.
Which they have been. And then their playoff record hasn't been that great. But, yeah, they have the opportunity to get there because of, one, Aaron Rodgers, two, the best wide receiver in the league right now.
Yeah.
A solid running game, good offensive line, like really good offensive line.
Yeah.
And then I think they need him, another weapon for him,
Mm-hmm.
but they also need some help on that defense.
Yeah, absolutely.
And no one, and for Davante Adams at least, they don't have to give him a deal right away.
Right.
He can play this year on the franchise tag. They could franchise tag him again the next year if they wanted.
Right.
Yeah, that dollar amount will go up the second year of a franchise tag.
Mm-hmm.
But maybe he's fine with that because maybe he wants to find out how long is Aaron going to actually play in Green Bay. Is he going to play those 4 years? Is he going to play 2 of them and then be gone? Davante going to want to be there if Aaron Rodgers isn't throwing him the football.
Right.
Maybe he wants to move on somewhere else at that time. We're going to find out more if he does get a deal or if he does play on the franchise tag, because that'll tell a lot coming up here.
Absolutely. I mean, you brought up an interesting thing, like taking the franchise tag. Like, nobody has said that he has any objection to that. Which, I mean, for those of us who know like baseball and stuff, you know, you don't know, Trevor Bauer for years has taken that 1-year contract by a lot of teams, right? And one of the great things about that is you kind of control your own destination. You get to pick and choose where you want to go. And look, Davante Adams at this point, he's 31, or excuse me, not 31. He's 29. He's 29 years old, right? You're on that kind of back half of your career, if you will. Not trying to say he's outdated. He's still clearly very good. But he's getting to that back half of his career. Like you said, how long does Aaron Rodgers have to play? Does he want to stick around maybe with him? If he doesn't play well here very soon, he could say, you know what? I took 2 years with you guys on the franchise tag, but I'm going to go to free agency and I'm going to try to do whatever it is I do next, right? Or I mean, the teams could commit to him as a franchise tag, and then he could say, well, I'm going to just file a grievance and then, or look for a trade at that point. You sit out. And he's got the money to potentially sit out for sure. He's made quite a bit. So that's a good point. But I'm glad you brought that up. That's a good point that, you know, in taking that franchise tag for Davante Adams, that could mean that maybe he just wants to go somewhere else. I mean, we talked about the possibility with player swap of multiple teams that he could go to. You know, some far-fetched maybe, but others I think are very realistic possibilities, maybe now more than ever potentially. So I don't know. I look at this team I'm sure that they could have an opportunity to go to the playoffs still and be very competitive. But as it stands right now, I think, I don't know. I feel like you're paying for just a lot of the same. I mean, am I wrong to say that? Because I feel like if they're doing like a let's run it back like Tampa, right? I had confidence in Tampa to run it back because they just won the Super Bowl.
Right.
To say like Green Bay is going to be like run it back, because I saw some people were like, yeah, let's run it back after they tagged Adams. I was like, yeah, but your run it back ended with you losing at home in the cold to San Francisco on a field goal.
Well, yeah, a warm weather team.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it just doesn't hit the same. It doesn't feel like saying run it back for the Packers means, oh yeah, we're going to the Super Bowl.
Jimmy G said it best after the game.
Yeah.
F the Packers. Okay?
Very true.
And that's where I stand.
Very true. I mean, listen, to quote the great Drew William, Aaron Rodgers is a dick.
Yeah.
And by the way, this makes that Jordan Love pick look even worse now, because you clearly could have used that to get a defensive weapon or a wide receiver like many thought they should have, and instead you completely botched it. Although I like what our guy TJ said. He's like, wouldn't it be something if they just went out and drafted a quarterback? Just to like throw the knife in like a little bit on Rodgers. I fully approve of that, and I have said if that does happen, that's going to be the first thing we talk about on the show after the draft. If that does happen, folks,
I don't see that happening.
I don't either.
They're giving him everything that he wants now.
Right.
That he did his little I'm going to be a whiny little bitch and go punch a karma all over the world. And do whatever the hell I want for a while.
And eat butter so I can cleanse my system, which
and piss another female off that leaves you because you're a dick.
Feel good?
A little bit.
All right. I mean, if you want to purge more, by all means, I can always let you. Yeah, listen, the Aaron Rodgers situation, I really think, listen, kudos to him for getting his money, I guess, right? Yeah. But I don't think it's going to make the Packers any better. This is clearly a situation where he wants to stay, probably because maybe Devontae wants to stay or vice versa. I don't really know, but if you're keeping these two, I feel like then get ready for a lot more of the same then. Get ready for Amari Cooper or Amari Rodgers to be maybe your number 2 at this point, or whoever you bring in, because I guarantee you now, you're going to have to use a lot of rookie draft picks. You're going to have to use a lot of those draft picks to get rookies, and that's going to be a bulk of your team at that point, because unless Alan Lazard and Marquise Valdez-Scantling want to take cheap contracts, but I don't know if that'll happen. I have no idea. But I guess kudos to Aaron Rodgers in some regard. I guess kudos to him. For Bears fans' sakes, I wish you would have went to California, but I guess you just don't want to go home. I don't know. It's you that scared of Trey Lance, huh? Is that it? You afraid of the rookie? I think you might be afraid. Prove me wrong, Rodgers. Go to San Francisco and win the job, and get out of the Bears' lives.
Well, that would have been wonderful.
Yeah, wouldn't that have been wonderful? But speaking of what may or may not be wonderful, a wonderful and, though I have to say, saddening moment for some occurred when, within about not 5 minutes, but our guy Tyler doing some recording, all hell broke loose when Russell Wilson was officially traded to the Denver Broncos. Yes, that is correct. You've heard me right. If you haven't heard this news, where have you been?
Yeah.
Yes, the Seattle Seahawks have officially traded Russell Wilson to the Denver Broncos. The move was an absolute haul for the Denver Broncos to give up, I guess, depending on how you look at things. But Seattle is getting 2 first-round picks in this year and next year's draft. They're getting 2 second-round picks in this year's and next year's draft. A 5th-round pick, I believe it is, in this year's draft. Quarterback Drew Lock, tight end Noah Fant, and defensive lineman Shelby Harris, all of which are starters. I mean Harris and Font are starters.
Yeah.
Drew Lock is like a...
We're going to compete for which garbage-ass quarterback we're going to be throwing out this next season.
Well, I guess I was going to ask then, basically, I guess the big question is, Drew, what was your feeling about this trade? And then I guess to kind of kick it off, who do you think obviously won this trade? What is your feeling on the trade, and who do you think won?
Well, first thought was, wow. Okay.
Yeah.
I thought that Denver would be a landing spot for Rodgers if he were to leave.
Right.
Once they realized that Rodgers was staying, they went out and got the next guy.
Yeah.
And it wasn't very, like, it literally came out a few hours apart.
Right.
So it's kind of get the idea that they were prepared for this to happen and went out right away and made the offer, made the deal, whatever they had to do.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a lot. That's a lot of picks. But for a Seattle team that had no first round picks because of Jamal Adams' deal,
right?
So now they have a first round pick this year. They're gonna have a shot to get a quarterback in this draft if they want, or wait till next year.
Yeah,
might be some better quarterback options next year than what they might have this season. So that's always an option too, to roll with Locke, and we know how bad he is.
Yes.
We've seen it in Denver with good talent on offense too. They'll be getting some nice players to throw the ball to in Seattle as well.
Yeah.
But it's hard to say who wins or loses a trade until you see those picks come out a few years down the road, or they, flip those picks for something else. Maybe they get some other players. But Fant and Harris are solid players for them to jump in and start right away.
Yeah.
So they got a haul for them. They got some nice players, but for me, Denver was kind of a quarterback away. I know they need a little something more, but as far as defense goes, they have a really good defense. They have weapons on offense, and adding Russell Wilson there, I think that's like a missing piece for them. As far as the division goes, it's very, very tough.
Yeah,
very tough division,
right?
And anyway, it's going to be a battle between all these teams year in and year out now, because Vegas is still getting better. They were a playoff team.
Right.
I think Denver kind of pushes themselves more into that lane, and they have potential to be the second best team in the division just by this trade, I think.
Yeah. Yeah. I was very torn because a lot of people were asking me what I thought of the trade yesterday, especially more than ever. Of course, because it goes down and people want to know your thoughts and I told people it felt like a win-win in a way, in a sense. I do think that there's an argument to be made that either side maybe got the better of the other. I think I would shift maybe more towards the Denver side, kind of being more of the winner, if anything, if I had to pick one. Just because of the fact, and this is, yes, a little slight dig at Karen Rodgers, but, listen, Aaron clearly, I think, looked at Denver and was like, oh, I don't want to deal with that, right? Russell Wilson's kind of a guy who's like, yeah, well, I you know what? It's a lot of quarterbacks in there, but I'll go against them. I'll go against Derek Carr and Patrick Mahomes and Justin Herbert twice a year. He's never been one to shy away from competition. So I think this Denver deal for him is just it's no problem for him. I think he looks at it, it's like, I get a young core in Cortland Sutton, Tim Patrick, Jerry Jeudy, KJ Hamler. You don't have a tight end now, but let's be honest, in these days now, you can find a tight end.
Plus, Fant's been so in and out of the lineup as it is, and hurt, and hasn't produced at a level that we thought he was going to.
Right, exactly. The offensive line, listen, running-wise, they're strong. I mean, Javonte Williams is going to be great to relieve the pressure. That's one of the things Seattle has always kind of looked for, as a running back that can help take the pressure off of Wilson. Now you have that kind of dual threat back that you can work out of the backfield as a runner and a pass catcher. And the offensive line on the pass level, they just have to get better at that. But luckily, Wilson has a little bit of escapability in his legs still, so he can play. So I don't know if they're going to win the division like people say. I do agree kind of what Richard Sherman was saying, for those who didn't catch him on his podcast. If they don't win a Super Bowl during the time he's there, people will lose their jobs, and it will certainly feel like it will be viewed as like a failed opportunity. This is a great opportunity because we don't really know what Jerry Jeudy is yet.
No.
He's been hurt. He's been inconsistent at times. Unfortunately, he's just not been good yet. So we don't know what he's going to be like with a competent quarterback now.
And like we
in that
said,
position.
and like we said, or I said last week with player swap, it's that
Yes.
2 targets a game, 0 targets in some games. You know, I know he had an injury and came off of that, and then his rookie season, it was just all right. But again, look at the offense that it was running when you're targeting that kind of a player.
Yeah.
The few of times he doesn't have the opportunity to put his talent on display.
Right. Exactly. And that's and I'm glad you brought up that point, because when you look at that receiving core, all of those guys, I mean, Tim Patrick's a big wide receiver. Cortland Sutton's a big wide receiver. Jerry Jeudy, he's got the incredible speed down the field. If you give each one of those guys probably 5 to 7 targets apiece, you're probably looking at 400 yards of total offense between all 3 of them at any given time. I mean, you're talking about 3 wide receivers who maybe at any point can have anywhere between 50 to 100 yards apiece.
And who has a great deep ball.
Exactly.
Russell Wilson.
Yeah.
And both these guys have the potential to run down the field and catch a lot of deep balls.
Right, exactly. And but on the other side, I will give Seattle the benefit of the doubt on this. They come away with some draft picks, which they needed.
Yeah.
The Jamal Adams thing, I think, has just been a brutal, just complete failure up until this point. He's a good player, but he's not worth 2 first-round picks. I'm sorry. He's not worth 2 first-round picks, and it shows. At this point, he'd probably be only worth like a second-round pick at this point in time. So for Seattle, they get back draft picks. They move up to number 9 in the draft now. The projection is that they could be taking a quarterback, but I'll throw something out there for if the Seahawks are smart, and I'm saying if knowing that this is a big if. If they're smart, I would say start Drew Lock, let him play, lose 12, 13 games, right? Don't tank, but, you know, you're playing Drew Lock, let's be honest, in a division, by the way, that is still strong, very good defenses, right?
Yeah.
You lose 12, 13 games, you get a top 5, top 10 pick. Next year in the draft, and it's nothing against Malik Willis because I do think he's the top quarterback, but whether he's gone or not, or Kenny Pickett or any of these guys, next year's quarterback class, you're talking about 2 guys right now who stand out. C.J. Stroud and Bryce Young. 2 guys who I would argue are bigger, stronger versions of what we see with Russell Wilson. I'm just throwing that out there. I don't think you can obviously say they're maybe at the same level as Wilson because obviously he's very mature.
Right.
He came out at 24 years old as a man and was ready to go and hit the ground running. That's why he's worked so well. But if you want to play that game, and I think they should, I think that's the smart move to do. Now, the question obviously is, will they play that game? Because as I'm sure you know, and as our guy Jake in the back does know as well, Seahawks draft has not been great.
Yeah.
Out of all the guys they've drafted, Dixon and Metcalf, I think, are the only guys that have gone to the Pro Bowl in the last 5 years, if I'm not mistaken, or have been of elite talent, at least you could say, to be Pro Bowl caliber players. Everybody else has pretty much botched, right? Rashad Penny only just recently turned it on. L.J. Collier, and part-time pass rusher at this point. Like, none of those guys have really worked. And I'll ask you this, Drew, too. I want to ask you this because I know me and Jake were discussing this, and he's a Seahawks fan, obviously. But do you think that there was irreparable damage done between Russell Wilson and Pete Carroll that might have potentially led to this split having to happen? Do you think that there was maybe some sort of rift between the 2 of them? Because I'm of the mindset that something had to have gone wrong between them. But I want to know from you, do you think that that's a possibility, or do you think there might have been something else that maybe just set the bomb off?
Yeah, I think that's exactly what it was.
Okay.
They weren't on the same page, and we even heard some things come out about that throughout the season before last season when there was potential. When he's saying, like, these are the teams I want to go to.
Right.
That was around the time when they're like, him and Pete Carroll aren't necessarily on the same page.
Right.
And who knows, maybe it got to a point where either trade me or get rid of Pete Carroll.
Yeah.
That could be a possibility as well. Or I don't see either one of them really saying something like that, but maybe it was kind of implied like these guys can't do it together, so we have to make the decision which guy are we getting rid of.
Right.
And at the end of the day, where Russell's at in his career, he had one of the worst seasons of his career last year. Yes, he finally missed some games due to injury, but and overall, I think he'll be fine and play well in Denver. But the way their team was looking, they haven't been good since the Legion of Boom.
Yeah.
Their defense has been awful. They have a few good players, but they need more to add. They need to add a lot more players, and these picks will help. But I think that, yeah, right. That's exactly what it was. Is the two of them butting heads, not on the same page.
Mm-hmm.
Russell wants to do certain things with the offense, and Pete Carroll is running his way of things, and then that's where it all starts to go downhill.
Absolutely, yeah. I can't find like any other thing other than like listen. And obviously, for both teams, it's tough, right? Because both teams have obviously lost their owners, right? Bowden, who used to be the owner for the Denver Broncos, passed away, and now it is his estate that runs the team. And now they're going through the shift of trying to sell the team. And then you have Paul Allen, who passed away, and now his sister is in control of the team. And there may be a possibility that they may sell the team, right? So there's a lot there with these two franchises that you don't have owners, so you're giving the vice presidents and the GMs like Snyder and I think it's Walton, I think is the name of the guy for the Broncos. I apologize. But they get a lot of that power, right? Kind of like Gunst in Green Bay, right? There's no owner for the Packers, so he's kind of the higher power of the Green Bay Packers, right? He's one of the higher names, so he gets a lot of the decision-making process put in front of him. So this could have been a thing where like the GMs saw this as an opportunity to kind of make this deal happen because there's no owners to oversee them and say, no, we have to keep this guy. Because Paul Allen, from what I understood, loved Russell Wilson and wanted him to be a Seahawk forever. But obviously that's not going to be the case. So had Paul Allen still been here, maybe this deal doesn't happen. But I asked that question because, like I said, I agreed with that. I think just Pete Carroll and his defense, unfortunately, it's very outdated. His style of offense is very outdated. Russell Wilson is a guy that has changed over time, but he has forced the change at this point because he's had to. He doesn't have a choice. I can't hand this off to the running back. We have to throw the football 30, 40 times a game. And listen, now you're in an offense with Nathaniel Hackett, who's like, all right, you're not Aaron Rodgers, but you're like the closest, like you're right there with him in tier, I would say. No skin, nothing lost, really. I think
one of the best deep balls in the game between both of them.
Absolutely. And honestly, I would even say you might even have something to gain there because with Aaron Rodgers, like you said, he's kind of a dick. With Russell Wilson, he is, I don't want to say the ultimate team guy, but he's probably as close as a team guy as you can find. So
definitely.
Denver, congratulations. Seattle, best of luck to you. Boy, folks, if you thought this was going to be a quiet offseason, well, we just went up to a 20. Like 0 through 10, we hit 20, like way too hard.
The season completely ended. Baseball's supposed to be going on, and guess who still has the headlines?
Yeah,
the NFL.
Sorry, this is, and I mean,
football is king.
Yeah, I'm sorry, baseball. You don't do something soon, you're gonna get overshadowed by the news of the offseason because even Jimmy Garoppolo will beat out anything you try to throw out baseball news-wise. I'm sorry. And we're going to get into more of that here soon, folks, because, my goodness, moves did not stop. There's a lot of rumors of potentially who could go where. Some possible trades may happen. And, of course, one player that just did not cash out at the right moment. We'll be talking all that here and more here on the X-Bomb Sports Live Show. Welcome back, everybody, here to the X-Bomb Sports Live Show. I'm still Andrew Valentine. I'm here with the voluptuous Mr. Drew Willem. I found a word.
That's a better word.
Found a word, yes, instead of making one up. You know what? I'll make up my own language as I go along. How about that?
Nobody's going to know what the hell you're talking about, but go for it.
But you will.
I don't know.
All right.
I'm not making any promises.
All right, that's fine. Well, folks, we've been talking about, obviously, the Aaron Rodgers deal. We talked about the massive Russell Wilson trade for the first half. The second half, though, Drew, are you ready to hit it, man? Because there's more NFL news. Are you ready for this?
Oh, yeah.
Let's do this then, folks. For the second half, continuing on with the Seahawks, obviously, Russell Wilson, he's out. Ditto Bobby Wagner. Yes, that's right. If you haven't heard the news, the Seahawks are releasing the all-pro linebacker Bobby Wagner, or informed him that he will be released. So Bobby Wagner will no longer be a Seahawk. Wagner actually came in the same year as Russell Wilson, was, I believe, the second-round pick, if I'm not mistaken, where Russell was the third-round pick. So your top two players basically coming in that second and third round. No teams ever find that. I mean, in my opinion, Russell Wilson, I think, is a Hall of Famer. I think Bobby Wagner could easily be there as well because he's been such a defining linebacker, like a Patrick Willis. Yeah, absolutely. He's so good. But obviously being released. And then on top of that, the rumor is now spinning, and it sounds like this is actual news now, that the Seahawks are seeking a trade potentially for Tyler Lockett. So with all that being said, Drew, I pass it to you, man, as the big question. Obviously for the Seahawks, this is major stuff. This is now no Russell Wilson, the captain of your offense, no Bobby Wagner, the captain of your defense, and now one of your primary targets is now also possibly going to be traded as well. What do you think about these moves that the Seahawks are making? Do you think that they're just trying to tear down away from the salary cap and try to maybe purchase new players? Do you think that this is just a rebuilding stage, start fresh over on a new canvas? What do you think's happening here with the Seahawks?
I think it's very telling what they're doing. And to me, it shows that that's exactly what they're doing, is going for a rebuild. Okay. Yes, they have some nice pieces. They have a young stud wide receiver. They're not getting rid of him. Yeah. But maybe they can get more picks, whatever, another player. Mm-hmm. Probably more picks. They're probably just loading up on picks as much as they can. Yeah. And if Tyler Lockett gets traded for more picks, then again, that's very telling what they're trying to do and trying to rebuild this team, right, while still having some nice pieces on both sides. Yeah. I heard this news and it shocked me. I got to be honest. When I saw it, I did not expect it to happen because, listen, if you talk about consummate teammates, right? Another guy who is really one of the consummate teammates is Bobby Wagner. The guy says nothing wrong ever with the defense. He always gives those, even when they played terrible, he's given them so much praise. I mean, he was one of those guys who was super supportive when they brought in guys like Jadeveon Clowney. I don't know why, but whatever. But he's always been that teammate, right? Carlos Dunlap comes in. Everybody thought Dunlap was washed up, and then he ends up playing really well and he says a lot of it is credit due to Bobby Wagner being the support and saying you can get this done, and also being a great player that he is. So he doesn't just he's not just great himself. He clearly makes other guys around him better. I mean, all those guys have really said they credit him for being the leader of that defense, being the man in the middle. Captain. Absolutely. It shows. And now, no longer with the Seahawks means he is now going to hit free agency. And the Bears are going to go out and they're going to sign him because it's not going to cost a ton because up there in age, but dude can still produce. He's a solid player. And you beat me to the question, man. You beat me. And then that's fine. I'm glad you did because that would be an exciting move. Absolutely. That's the kind of move that I'm hoping that Eberflus is. Oh, I'm sure he's. Don't tell me he's not watering at the mouth. Salivate while he's like a Bobby Wagner got released. Yeah. He's probably calling polls right away. Like, we need to get this guy. We need to get him here. If I'm Eberflus, if I'm even Lovie Smith too, I'm sure both of those guys are like right now at the moment hunting for the opportunity to get Bobby Wagner into that defense. But I put that out on social media. I said, listen, nothing against Roquan, but the talk of Roquan is that moving him to outside linebacker would maybe be better for him in the 4-3 defense, right? So moving him to weak side backer, he would be a weak side linebacker from heaven. Putting him with a Bobby Wagner, I'm not saying it would, but you're putting that on the same level as Urlacher and Lance Briggs, where
One guy went in the sidelines on one side, the other guy controlled this half of the field, and then whoever you want as your strong side linebacker doesn't even, I don't know if you really even need a starting, vet at that point. You could probably draft a rookie and say, yeah, we'll work with what we got here and we'll figure it out, because you've got one whole part of the field covered with one guy and you've got this other part of the field covered with the other guy. Now, I mean, you're talking about two guys, run coverage, pass rush coverage, pass coverage in general. They can do it all. They can stuff the run. They can get after the quarterback. They can intercept the passes. Elite talent.
I think Gibson plays that outside linebacker position where he could jump in on that one side. He showed us some good things this past year.
He did. I mean, granted,
Flashed.
yes, he did. He flashed. Granted, he's considered like a 3-4 edge rusher, if you will. But look, if any of these guys can convert to being a 4-3 linebacker, and Gibson looks, number one, he's got the size. He's like 6'4", 6'5". He's pretty big. He'd have to drop weight. I think he's like 250 or so he'd have to be around 240. But look, if they can run fast, he's a fast guy. If he can run with the best of them in coverage, this team, the Bears team, might be on a better level. But I think Bobby Wagner is certainly going to be a hot commodity. Any team looking to win a championship who needs a middle linebacker will be in the hunt for this guy. And like you said, because of his age, you don't have to worry about now trading for him and taking on that massive contract. You now can set the price at what you want. It's not going to cost a lot. You have the opportunity to now go out and get Bobby Wagner on the cheap, and you'll get him probably at, I would still say, Pro Bowl level at this point in time. So, but I agree with you. I think the Bears, honestly, right now, I think they would be a great fit for him. And what, 2-3 years probably you're saying on the contract?
Yeah.
20, 25 million maybe. It sounds like a lot, but I mean, if you structure it right, you can probably make it easy enough to work with.
The Bears are surprisingly have one of the most cap room right now.
Absolutely. And this is a player who I think he's coming from that 4-3 defense in Seattle, so he fits perfectly like a glove. I would have said that like Ace Ventura. I know I missed an opportunity, but he fits like a glove for the Chicago Bears. So
that's better.
Yeah, thank you. So I would fully expect I expect the Bears to at least call his agent. Please call his agent before like the Giants do or somebody, for the love of God. But we'll see what happens with Bobby Wagner. And as for Tyreek Hill.
Tyler Lockett,
excuse me. Sorry, God.
Tyreek Hill's not going anywhere.
Tyreek Hill's not going anywhere yet. But for Tyler Lockett, I don't know where he could go at this point. I mean, there are teams that are going to want him.
He's a really good wide receiver. Any team could use him.
I would say Arizona, because they seem to like to do this kind of stuff.
Maybe it's a guy that Green Bay goes out and tries to get for not a lot of money.
Or who knows? I mean, if Dallas is truly losing Amari Cooper, and I know that's not something we have on here, but that's the rumor that they're going to lose Amari Cooper, which I think is stupid.
I saw them they were trying to sign free agent Michael Gallup.
Yes.
Which wouldn't cost as much, and I think they want to go more CeeDee Lamb and Michael Gallup.
Yes.
Because Amari Cooper, cutting him or trading him is going to save them like 22 million, somewhere in that range.
A huge amount.
He's got a huge cap hit.
And Dak has already agreed to a contract restructure, or he's already restructured it, I think, which frees up money. Zach Martin also is going to restructure his contract, or he's already restructured it, I think, as well, which frees up a ton of money as well. So the Dallas Cowboys now have money to spend. I just find it, and I know we're not on the Seahawks anymore. I'm just going to say, this is why you don't sign a running back to a massive ass deal. This is why because did you see those numbers? They said with Amari Cooper, Dak Prescott is like top 10 quarterback level. Without him, he's barely peaking at like a winning quarterback. This is why you don't tie yourself up in Ezekiel Elliott, because he's in Cabo and we need our running back.
I think a lot of that too for me is CeeDee Lamb is just finished his second season.
Yes. Okay.
You saw what he can do this past year.
Absolutely.
Okay? He's now going into his third year.
Mm-hmm.
Is gonna take that next step and be even better. That's number one wide receiver.
Yeah.
To me.
Absolutely.
Number one wide receiver, hands down. You're the number one guy.
Right.
And I think that's what they're going for, is a replacement of Amari Cooper being that person and him taking that next step and being that number one guy, where when Amari Cooper was doing his thing, CeeDee Lamb wasn't even there.
Right.
And then he's still trying to make his way up to the top tier NFL player at his position.
Absolutely. Well, I mean, we'll see what happens with that situation. But yeah, a little bit of Dallas Cowboys just for those out there. So Dallas fans, you know who you are. Yeah, exactly. How about them Cowboys? Well, we'll see. How about them Cowboys? But how about them Commanders, folks? Geez, who would have thought that the Commanders were looking for a quarterback?
Don't care.
Yeah. Haven't used that one in a while, so
that was good.
That's a throwback for you folks.
Smoking Jay Cuddy.
Yeah. Commander Carson is officially going to DC. That's right. Carson Wentz is being traded from the Indianapolis Colts. The offer that was put out there, the Washington Commanders will receive a second-round pick with him. They will also be sending their 2022 second-round pick and 2 third-round picks, with one of them being a conditional pick to turn into a second-round pick if he plays 70% of the snaps.
That's a big if.
That's a big if, because he's always hurt sometimes. So we'll see what happens with that. But obviously, it was news that broke today. It's the big news that broke today, if you want to call it big news. But as Drew has already stated, not your favorite thing in the world. But I'll ask you anyways. What did you think about this trade for Carson Wentz going from the Colts to Washington? We knew that this is something that might happen with the Colts. There was a lot of places that he was mentioned. Washington was one of them. But what do you think of him getting traded from the Colts? What do you think the Colts are going to do now without him? And what do you think how does Washington look with Carson Wentz as their quarterback?
So I'm going to start with Indy.
Go for it.
Frank Reich, the guy who helped make Carson Wentz into a potential MVP type player, right?
Mm-hmm.
Wanted to bring him into Indy, brought him there because he's going to try and get that out of him.
Absolutely.
Didn't do it.
Right.
And now, after one season, is wanting him out the door.
Right.
Okay. So that's very telling right there. From the Washington side, is he really better than Taylor Heineke? Is he really better than him?
I mean,
potential wise,
right?
Yes, but that's potential,
right?
Has he been living up to his potential? No, exactly.
No.
Taylor Heineke is one of those guys that's going to go out there and give it all his every single game, because he's not the guy. He's not that first round pick. He's not that potential MVP and never will be.
Yeah.
And he can throw, to me, he can throw better than Carson Wentz. Carson Wentz this past season didn't throw the ball downfield. He didn't throw the ball a lot. They relied on that run game. I don't think this makes them a better team. I think they gave up too much for a quarterback that hasn't been worth much of anything. The minus 1 year, year and a half. And so I don't think that is going to make that team any better, and they're going to kind of run in place.
Yeah.
So for me, it's just kind of like, I don't really care about it, because it just doesn't move the needle. It doesn't. For you. Yeah. My bobber's not going anywhere.
Right.
So yeah,
understandable.
It's just he's not the player that he was supposed to be.
Yeah.
And what he had shown before. I don't know where that's coming back.
I was listening to, obviously, when the trade happened, and I not the biggest fan of Dan Orlovsky, but he did say something that I thought was interesting, and he put out as a tweet as well. This is the last year, I think, for Carson Wentz to prove to people that he's a starting quarterback. He is 29 years old, so he's going to be 30 soon here, right? Injuries have plagued him constantly throughout his career. Granted, last year he was pretty good, 3,500 yards, 27 touchdowns, 7 picks. Had a decent quarterback rating, right? Had a good passer rating. All that stuff was there. But like you said, they relied a lot on the run. They had a really good offensive line. He didn't throw the ball significantly down the field deep. There were a lot of games that we saw where he didn't have like even 200 yards passing. So obviously, like you said, Carson Wentz has not lived up to the potential of being a number 2 pick. I think he's still in that mid-tier, or at least lower mid-tier, if you will, of starting quarterbacks at this point. But I agree with Orlovsky on this. I think this is his last chance to prove he's a starting quarterback. So I think given that he's getting Terry McLaurin and Curtis Samuel when he is healthy, Antonio Gibson, and I'm assuming it sounds like J.D. McKissick might be back. Who knows? But if I look at all of that, and Logan Thomas too, obviously a tight end, it's not a bad receiving core. It's really not. I would say I think that would be. I would still say it's not much, but it's a little bit of an upgrade simply because I feel like Terry McLaurin certainly has made steps to say he is a true number one wide receiver.
Oh, absolutely.
Where
he's a really good player.
He's a really good player. Whereas the Colts, it's Pittman, but like Pittman still has more to show, obviously.
Right.
So
second year,
exactly,
starting to come on more. He's improved from year 1 to year 2.
Absolutely.
Again, another guy I think he takes that next step coming forward.
Absolutely, and I totally agree with that too. With T. Higgins, what you saw with him, you'll probably see a lot with Pittman, but maybe more on the level of being like what we see with Terry McLaurin. Like he took a huge jump. So look, if Carson Wentz is fully healthy all season long, I'm not saying they make the playoffs, but I do think there's at least more of a competitive edge to them than maybe what we saw kind of last year. Nothing against Taylor Heineke. He's a good player. I would keep him as the backup because Carson Wentz will probably go down with an injury at some point.
Can't stay healthy.
Exactly. Can't stay healthy. So I think this is actually a good thing for them because if anything, you've got a nice 1-2 punch at quarterback where it's like, look, he's not Nick Foles, but he's probably about as close as we get to a guy who knows the system, who's played with these guys. They trust him. And if Carson Wentz can get the job done, great. But if he gets hurt or he's not getting the job done, we go to Taylor Heineke, and then we know what we have in Carson Wentz. And they really didn't give up a ton to get this guy. And they still got a second-round pick back with him because they couldn't just trade Carson Wentz on its own. So
I just feel, for me, it's like I don't think he was worth trading for to begin with.
Right, yeah.
But like to me, I know
wait for them to cut him or something.
Everybody needs a starting quarterback.
Right.
And yes, he's better than a lot of the starting quarterbacks in the league.
Sure.
The point of this whole game is to win.
Right.
The point of it all is to find players that are going to help you win.
Right.
That's not what they did.
No. Yeah.
That's where it falls short for me.
Okay. Yeah, and I understand that completely, right? Because now the Colts move on.
Right.
There's a lot of rumors of who they're going to pick up. I don't know why Trubisky's name gets tossed around like he's all of a sudden the hottest thing since sliced bread. Must say a lot, I guess, about this draft class. I don't know. Though Malik Willis, I think, is the best quarterback. I guess they're all still considered projects in my eyes. It's just not that deep a class. Next year is where you're going to find the real deal guys, I think.
Rookies that could come out and start first year.
Exactly. And maybe one, if you could just pick it up at Clemson, please. Just make me right, dude. All right, but never mind. Aside from that, though, I like the Jimmy Garoppolo thing, obviously, going to the Colts. I had heard, again, this is just through Instagram and through the Twitter that I've heard, there's a chance that the Saints are trying to make a play for Jimmy G. I like him in New Orleans, and I like him in Indianapolis, and I like him in Pittsburgh, but I think the Colts would be a great spot for him because it's the same setup as it is in San Francisco. It's the exact same setup, right? A coach who I really believe is very good in Frank Reich, with a running attack in Taylor, followed by maybe the best offensive line he's seen in a long time.
Yeah.
And a big wide receiver in Michael Pittman to throw the ball to when he needs to, and a defense that is still relatively very good. Maybe not top 5, but still in that range of, I would say, top 12, maybe even top 10 as far as defenses go. So,
and we'll see how they respond getting new coaches and potentially a new system. Who knows how that's going to work out. Losing their top defensive coach and even the linebackers coach, I believe.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. They've got a lot that they're going to have to adjust on themselves. But Darius Leonard, I mean, and DeForest Buckner and those guys, they were stellar last year. So I think Jimmy G going to the Colts, I think, is a smart move. But I've heard New Orleans potentially could be a deal that they might be getting done. And if that's the case, that's going to be a bit of a shock. So, but we'll see what happens. Obviously, there's tons of more quarterback stuff to go around. And speaking of quarterbacks, though, and we just talked about him, our good old friend Mitchell. making a return potentially back to the NFL as a starting quarterback, as the rumors have it that the Giants may potentially be making a play to enter into the Mitchell Trubisky talks and bring him in to compete with quarterback Daniel Jones. So, Drew, we know firsthand from watching him in Chicago who Mitch is.
Yep.
Well spoken. He obviously had a year there in Buffalo to kind of sit and, or not a year, 2 years, right? 2 years in Buffalo, whatever it is, or I don't even remember now. Year in Buffalo, let's say.
1 year.
Yeah, 1 year in Buffalo. Thank you. A year in Buffalo. He's now kind of riding around, kind of finding out apparently he's worth, what did I see? $10 million a year potentially, annually, which is a lot. But what are your thoughts about the Giants? Or really, I get not even just the Giants, but I mean, if you start with the Giants, but really anybody being interested in Trubisky, do you think it is the smart move? Do you think he is capable of stepping in and being like a Ryan Tannehill-esque type quarterback? You think that's like hand the ball off and throw it a couple times, or is there just nothing left to say that this man should be a starter in the NFL? What are your thoughts? Keep in mind, he was in Chicago, so Ayers might come out, but please.
I mean, I think there's possibility.
Okay.
I wouldn't discount that or discredit that idea at all.
Okay.
Because look who is coaching him.
Right. Yes.
We found and saw over the years that Nagy was a stubborn guy.
Mm-hmm.
We could watch the games and we can tell that this guy Trubisky wasn't being utilized the correct way.
Right.
He wasn't putting an offense in that would support him, that plays to his advantages.
Right.
He ran Nagy's offense.
Mm-hmm.
We're running this because this is what we're going to do, and this is mine, and whatever.
Yeah.
So, yes, I do think that there's a possibility. Obviously, if there's talk about him going to the Giants, it's because Brian Daboll, who just coached for the Buffalo Bills and was with Mitch Trubisky last season, if he wants to bring him in, that's for a reason. He saw something from him.
Right.
Enough to want to let him compete with Daniel Jones, who hasn't really shown a whole lot either.
Yeah.
Maybe Daboll being there gets most out of both of these players. Mm-hmm. And that's why he wants to bring him in. So I think it's a possibility. I don't know that it's necessarily likely. I don't think Mitch Trubisky is ever going to become a really good starting quarterback in this league.
Okay.
I think he's going to. He has the potential to be a Carson Wentz-esque, like, oh, he's okay.
Yeah.
His teams are going to trade for him because he does enough to help your team, but everything else around him has to be like perfect in order for him to have success.
Yes.
So I think it's one of those situations. I think bringing him into the Giants is with Daboll might be a good spot for him to give him a shot again.
Yeah.
But he was in Chicago and had things to say about the Chicago media and this and that, and having to turn off TVs because they're talking trash about him. What do you think New York is going to do to him?
Right.
They're going to eat him alive.
Especially the Giants, the marquee franchise in New York. So,
who's been terrible for a very long time now.
Yes.
So, possibility, yes. Likely, not totally for me.
Okay. Yeah, I'm in the same boat. I just don't get it with this kid. Like, me and David, our good friend David Dykstra, we were having this, not argument, but a certainly conversation about this. And I don't feel like he's progressed. I know he was in Buffalo. He played well in that preseason game. I get it. I know.
He didn't throw any meaningful passes last year, so it's kind of hard to tell and say. But for him to spend 1 year in a good organization with good coaching staff and all that, and to say now he's ready to get whatever the going rate is for starting quarterbacks off the bat, I think that's a little too much for me.
Yeah, no, that's the problem I have is that, I mean, like you said, going into New York, it's not going to get any better. They know who you are. They've seen you against the Bears, right? You lost twice to them, unfortunately, in 2 years. So I don't know how this gets any better for him. And not only that, but I do think Daniel Jones on a player-for-player basis throws a better ball, throws a better deep ball. I think he's just as athletic. If I'm going to be honest, Mitch Trubisky should probably be looking at what Taysom Hill does and really considering the possibilities of what you can do as a guy who can do a little bit of everything. He's super athletic, and I just don't see him being a starting quarterback. I can't imagine him being the starting quarterback of the Giants. You're handing the ball off how many times to Saquon, and you really can't do that. You need to alleviate pressure off of Saquon, not give him the ball 40 times in a game. We know he gets hurt a lot, so you need to really consider the possibilities of what your quarterback can do. And if you're dumping screen passes to Saquon 40% of the game, that's just not going to happen. That's just not going to work in the long term. So I'm with you. I don't understand it. I don't think he should go to the Colts. I don't think he should go to the Giants. If he does, it's as a backup. It's as the backup. I would not bring him in as quarterback competition. Maybe Daboll knows something we don't. I don't know. But the guy I knew here, I didn't know him, but the guy I saw in Chicago, he was athletic. He had a bad arm. He did not seem to read defenses, which told me he doesn't do film study. And from what we understood, he showed up when everybody else did. He left when everybody else did. That's not a starting quarterback. That's a guy who's just in it for the paycheck and is lucky enough to be in this situation right now. So that's just me. But moving on from these guys, we slipped this one in real quick because since all the news happened, I completely forgot about it. If you haven't heard, in Atlanta, my goodness, you would have thought there was all sorts of issues going on with Calvin Ridley. As we heard, it was a lot of mental health issues that were going on with him. Well, now we are finding out, as of this past week, that apparently Calvin Ridley was suspended for a full year by the NFL now because he, quote, bet on NFL games. The report is that he bet $1,500 on a Falcons game when he was not playing with them.
On an eight-leg game parlay?
Eight-leg game parlay.
Learn how to bet first before you do things you're not supposed to.
I was going to say. He also bet for the Falcons to win, which...
At least he didn't bet against them.
Yeah, exactly. Lost $11.2 million. Yikes. Is not good. Not good, my friend. Not good at all. But
I don't think he lost it. I think that was a joke.
Oh yeah, he was one.
He bet $1,500, but bet $1,500 to lose $10 million,
right?
Because that was his contract for next season.
Right,
it was $10 million.
Yeah.
So by being suspended, you don't get a dime of that. So you're out because you bet $1,500. You're out $10 million.
Exactly. Yeah. So it's still very topical at least.
Yes.
But he is out for the year. There is, I guess he is talking about possibly appealing it. So I don't know how the NFL is going to handle this because this is the first time in a while that they've had to deal with this. I believe, what was it? Art Schleister, I think, was the last time they had this problem where they had to ban a player for life or suspended a player for a year for gambling on games, which, by the way, he played in those games when he was gambling on them. Schleister, quarterback for the Colts at the time. So, but Drew, I want to ask you this as like the big question. Our guy Tyler Buteball brought this up about how other athletes, obviously, some more serious crimes have come up with them, and we were having this discussion today as well. They've obviously gotten 4 games, 6 game, 8 game suspensions. We get this gambling situation that pops up where he's not even playing for the team, and yet he gambles and on NFL games, and he's suspended for a year. What do you make of this situation? And do you think the NFL is maybe looking at this because it's possibly something new to them with the whole gambling situation? Or do you think that this was an accurate punishment for what he did? What are your thoughts?
So for him being out and not playing, betting on his team to win, it's not good. Okay, all these teams I heard in their locker rooms, they have signs up that say things like "No gambling, none of this."
Right.
Like you can't do this.
Yeah.
It's in every locker room, posted, clear as day.
Yeah.
Okay? So there's no excuse.
Right.
You know.
Absolutely.
So, but for the fact that he wasn't playing, bet on his own team to win, it doesn't make it as bad if he was betting on his team to lose and in the game, because then there's potential for throwing a game.
Right.
which I think he would be done for good then.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I don't think that I think the punishment was appropriate. I don't think it was too harsh, and I don't think it was too light.
Mhm.
So as far as that goes, I think it's where it should be. Now, going to these more serious crimes and serious things that Deshaun Watson's case, if he gets found guilty,
Right.
I think for a lot of these things, if these more serious crimes, if they're found guilty for some of them, they're going to jail. So they're not out. They're out anyways.
Right.
So I think that's where it kind of differs. Like, he went to a state where gambling was legal, online sports betting was legal.
Right.
He did it from his phone, so that's how they knew it was him.
Right.
Was easily trackable for it. So I think that's where it kind of differs, is the more serious crimes to a certain extent.
Mm.
Okay, so the more serious crimes, you may go to jail and be done anyways, where like Ray Rice situation,
Right.
Kareem Hunt situation, ones like that where they were suspended for half a season,
Right.
or certain amount. Ray Rice basically was the guy that brought this whole thing to light.
Yes.
And brought it all into our view of things, that this is a real thing that happens and it needs to be stopped.
Mm-hmm.
So he basically was done with the league from there on out.
Yeah.
Didn't do anything more. Got a second chance with the Ravens, but wasn't good.
Right.
I am fully on board for situations like that they may spend a night in jail or 2 nights in jail or whatever and then bailed out. No, like felonies that they won't be going to jail for a long time.
Yeah.
They put their hands on a woman and think there's some big man that can push a woman, punch a woman, kick a woman, whatever.
Yeah.
I'm fully on board with them getting that full year suspension, if not more, for things like that as well. It's gambling on games hurts the integrity of the game.
Right.
Okay? I heard someone say, if this is happening and players are gambling on games that they're playing in and betting against their teams to lose while they're playing it, then it turns into professional wrestling.
Yes.
Like
yeah.
WWE wrestling, okay? And that's what these professional leagues can't afford to happen. So I get why the penalty is so strict, year long, and depending on the severity of it for the rest of your life.
Yeah.
Like Pete Rose.
Yeah.
But yes, I'm definitely on board with more serious repercussions for these players that are doing awful, like unimaginable things.
Right.
Like putting their hands on a woman. I think those penalties should be much more strict, along with what they have in line with gambling as well.
Yeah, no, I don't think I can say anything better than what you said there, my friend. I think you really hit it all. I'm in the same boat. Like, you knew it was wrong, so I think a year suspension. It does sound lengthy, yes, for what it is, but unfortunately, because of the fact that gambling is now so prevalent in like the sports lexicon now, like, my God, the moment he got suspended, you could bet on whether or not Calvin Ridley was going to play with the Falcons or not. Like that's a legit bet that Vegas opened up at the moment he got suspended, because that's our new lexicon now, right?
Yeah.
Everybody walked. I never thought in a million years I would go back to gambling. Like, the most I did when I was younger, I bet on the horse races at Arlington Heights. Like, I did that a lot, and then I stopped because I'm like, I'm losing a lot of money on this stuff because horses are so unpredictable. But then so are these games, and now I find myself every now and then throwing in a couple bucks. I've cooled it a lot, trust me, a lot, especially since last Super Bowl. These guys know what I'm talking about. But
yeah, he was a sad guy.
I was a sad man that day, but I recouped on my money, thankfully, through work. But it is something that obviously it needs to be more discussed, and I do think that if this requires then a year suspension, then beating your wife, hurting a child, anything like that, I mean, the Deshaun Watson case, by the way, is about to starting its preliminary trial hearings for the trial.
Find
So
some new news out on Friday.
yeah, so we'll. Jeez, we're gonna see what happens there. This, I'm gonna be honest. This is not looking good for Deshaun Watson. And I was gonna put this in the news, but right now, geez,
We'll know more next week.
Exactly. We'll let what happens play out, and we'll let you guys know if something builds out. But I'll say this really quick off the bat on that. I think this is going to a trial. There's just too many signs pointing to it at this point. And if that's the case, then I don't think you're going to see Watson for a while, unfortunately.
Time.
So
if ever again.
Yeah, exactly. So, but unfortunately, Calvin, you're going to have to do the time for the crime, but he's still going to be a wanted man no matter what. He's still a great wide receiver. You made a mistake. It's okay. It happens. Like, yes, it does not look good. Right. Ruins the integrity of the game. Yes. But it's not as bad as others have been in the past. There are things that are way worse. I mean, for God's sakes, Josh Gordon has had how many suspensions because of doing smoking weed that is now legal? Like, I mean, thank you, by the way, to the Chiefs for signing him back again. I love the fact he's still in the NFL. But we'll see what happens with Calvin Ridley. And last but not least, I threw this in just as a nice little kind of way to end it off. As you know, me and Drew played a fun game, player swap, as we do. We used Christian McCaffrey. Sounds like this could actually happen now because the Carolina Panthers reportedly are listening to conversations with other teams and offers that are coming in for Christian McCaffrey. A number of the teams have been noted potentially as actually Washington being one of them. Another team out there as well, from what I've understood.
Ron Rivera
likes his man. Other ones I have heard as well possibly could be, what was the one I was hearing? Oh, yeah, that's right. The Texans, I think, would be one of them. Yeah, right. One of them I did actually hear that I think we did say if he was on this team was actually Arizona. That would require not only a trade, but then they would also restructure his deal to fit with whatever I think they're going to probably pay Kyler Murray. Yeah. But so obviously it sounds like this may be a thing. Christian McCaffrey might no longer be a Panther, and his cap is certainly going to be big on this. But Drew, what do you think? I mean, Christian McCaffrey, where do you think he's going to go, and how much do you think, or let me ask you, how much would you give up for Christian McCaffrey if you were in a position to trade for him, and where do you think he'll go?
Well, Carolina said they want a first rounder and a usable piece.
Yes.
Over the last 2 seasons, the way he's been injured, I think it's kind of tough.
Okay.
When he is healthy and at the top of his game, he is the best at it in the league. To me, he's the way he runs and catches the ball. Coming into the NFL, they're like, yeah, he's going to be a scat back, catch some passes, run some sweeps.
I thought they were going to turn him into a wide receiver at one point.
And he just bulldozes up the middle and runs people over. Yeah. He's a beast.
Yeah, absolutely.
He is an up the middle runner just as much as everything else.
Yeah.
So when he's at the top of his game, he's a true 3-down back. He can score from anywhere on the field. So if he's at the top of his game, I don't think a first-round pick and a usable piece is too much to ask for.
Okay.
But I don't know that they're going to get that because just the uncertainty of the way his injuries have been. He's had these soft tissue injuries as well, ankle and hamstring injuries that are like, okay, well, you constantly keep injuring your hamstrings and injuring your ankles. Like those are injuries that you may not be very easy to just keep coming back from.
Yeah.
And hasn't been able to the last 2 seasons. Especially I think this past season he hurt it and then hurt it again and then he's missing more time, maybe trying to come back too soon. But I don't blame Carolina for fielding offers. Try and get as much as you can for the guy, but if you're not going to get what you want, I think they're better off keeping him.
Yeah, oh boy, me and Christian McCaffrey. I don't got beef with this guy. It's just like I really didn't think he was going to be something special. He's clearly proven me wrong, by the way, and I'm glad he did too because he's a really great special player. But look, he's only played in 10 games in the last 2 years. In that time, he's had just over 600 rushing yards. He's got 6 touchdowns. I mean, it's just not enough. You need more consistency. Like, he had back-to-back seasons of 16 full seasons, right? And now this year it was injury. Last year injury. I don't know with this guy anymore,
right.
And that's the problem.
It's hard to tell
because like I'm in the same boat with not to make it Saquon, but I'm in the same boat with him. Like, yes, Saquon I know had worse injuries than Christian McCaffrey, but I'm in the same boat with him. Like, both of those guys at their pinnacles. You're talking about special running backs, guys who are easily like 1,000-yard backs rushing and receiving. They are quintessential new age running backs that you want to shape your game, your team after. But how much is it going to cost to get these guys? I mean, I would honestly, I mean, I've heard people say a second round pick maybe at the most. I would maybe that might be the cost at the very bottom of it. I would maybe even say push for a third. Because unfortunately, running backs now are just a dime a dozen. You can find, the Bears found one in the 3rd round, and then they found another one in the 6th round, right? I mean, for God's sakes, you've got the Cardinals who have had problems finding running backs left and right, and instead they went through Kenyon Drake, who was good for them, and then they got James Conner and Chase Edmonds, both of them coming on cheap deals. So it's one of those things where running backs, you can find a guy that can run the football. Right, it's a very passers league right now. So
I just think it's more for McCaffrey at full health.
Yes,
there's not too many players like him.
No, there's not. He's definitely a different type of player. The only guys I could see being in his caliber when healthy, is like Alvin Kamara and Saquon at this point. Those are the only guys I feel like could be in his caliber, and obviously Saquon again. Major injuries with the ACL and stuff, and Alvin Kamara, we don't even know if he's going to ever play again. We don't even know what's going to happen there. So who knows? So and that's the other one I heard too, is that the Saints may go I don't think the Panthers would do this, but I mean, if the Saints were to give up a haul, would they get Christian McCaffrey in case of Alvin Kamara not being able to play ever again? Maybe, but it would have to be like a major haul over, obviously.
Right.
But listen, Christian McCaffrey, we may have to really play player swap for real with him at this point. I'm interested to see where he goes. Arizona, Houston, and Washington are the ones that are on the tab. I would say right now, if you're going to pick a favorite, I would say Washington. And I think, if anything, imagine if they can get a quarterback, like not Carson Wentz, but a guy that could be really something. God, imagine if they could have gotten Russell Wilson. Imagine if they could have pulled that off with like a Christian McCaffrey trade. And on that Washington team might have won the division. So it's all a want and if and a must. And now that Russell Wilson's been traded, I guess now when we do player swap on him, because that was going to be my next player to do player swap on, I guess now we're going to have to restructure it for the Broncos. So, but folks, that's going to do it for us here. And it has been an enjoyable one. And as always, I had my man Drew up here with me to talk in the NFL. Drew, as always, I'm so glad to have you up here, man, talking sports, especially for the NFL.
Love it. Love the NFL talk. Love all the off season.
Yeah,
excitement.
For those who don't know, I couldn't even wait to talk to this man about when everything went down. I was just like, gonna be a good show on Wednesday. Yeah. And he was going, oh my God, yes. So, I was excited for today.
I said, holy expletive, wow.
Yes, absolutely. And then he also said, forget Karen as well.
Yeah,
that was another one.
Yeah.
Or something to that effect, let's say.
Yeah, it was like F you, Karen.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. But this is not the end of the NFL news, as we know. There's going to be a lot more coming out, and me and Drew will be here talking about it, because I'm sure
once the legal tampering period opens.
Yes, absolutely. And
man, we didn't even talk about all those wide receivers that got tagged and
and we will be
signed,
my friend. Yeah. We will be, because there's a ton of players that sound like they're coming back that have agreed to deals. Mm-hmm. Guys that got tagged. My God, the league this time. This is going to be, I think, one of the more crazier off seasons we've seen. But Drew, as we wait for that one, please let the people know where they can listen to you as we prepare for all that stuff to come on, man.
Find me right here on Wednesdays and Thursdays. And then check me out on Instagram at d.gwil25 and Facebook at Drew Gwillem.
Absolutely, guys. And we will have more of your questions to answer for Drew. The appropriate ones, by the way. The appropriate ones.
I'll you could send me messages on social media for the inappropriate ones.
There you go.
I still have to find out what these inappropriate ones are.
I may tell you a few in the back. Here,
I'm gonna find out.
Yeah, exactly. But obviously, make sure to go follow Drew. Ask him any questions or comments, anything like that. Man knows all of his stuff on sports, so please hit him up, guys. Give him a follow. Give him some love. And if you guys want to follow me and listen to me and my annoying voice, as you guys love to put it, thank you so much. You guys can find. I love you guys, nevertheless. You can find me at the Filthy Guru on Twitter, but mostly you can find me at Boom Crew Captain on Instagram. Guys, you can still follow us and see our show at facebook.com/TeamXBombSports, where we upload the new videos when we do have them come out, when it does decide to actually work with us. So make sure to like and follow there, where you guys can get the days when we do finally go live on YouTube and on Twitch, if Twitch ever decides to play nice with us again. But you guys can make sure to get all those updates on our Facebook page. So again, if you follow us, again, we may stream on Twitch, but if not, catch us on YouTube. We are on YouTube XBomb Sports. That's X-BOMB Sports, SPORTS. Capital X, capital B, capital S. Search us on there. You'll find the channel. You guys can see us on there. Like and follow and subscribe to our channel. All that good stuff, guys. We want to hear from you. By the way, shout out to our boy King BMAC, who had this to say. He said, just saying T. Higgins went 7 picks later at the start of the second round after they stupidly took Jordan Love. Absolutely. I don't think they're ever going to forget that one.
And could you imagine T. Higgins and
I know, right? Oh my God! But instead, I get to see Higgins and Jamar Chase and good old Joe Burrow, and maybe Rob Gronkowski.
We jump on your bandwagon. You jump right on your bandwagon.
I'm happy. I don't know what everybody else is talking about. And also shout out to our boy. Unfortunately, Jake in the back. He said, "Stop this part, please," or "Skip this part, please." I know, Jake. I know you're hurting with the Seahawks stuff. I understand. But, folks, obviously, if you want to follow us on social media, at XBomb Sports on Twitter and on Instagram. And, of course, any email, questions, comments, anything like that, email us at xvsportsofficial@gmail.com. Now, if you want to follow us anymore, if you want to listen to the radio show that you guys know called Blow the Whistle, you guys can check it out at sportstownchicago.com. It's myself, David, and Tyler. We do an incredible job. You can find us on Monday, 2 to 4 p.m. Central Time, so make sure to check us out there. Also, too, check us out here on the TV side, on the YouTube page or the Twitch page, whichever one's working, at XBomb Sports, where you guys can check out Blow the Whistle on the TV live, 2:30 to 3:30 p.m. Central Time as well. Also, too, check out an amazing podcast known as Monday Motivation with Hannah B., done by our very own Hannah Brummer, where you get to do all the great things and listen to all the great things that keep you positive and going throughout the day. So if your Mondays suck, make sure to go check out Monday Motivation with Hannah B on Spotify, Odyssey, and iHeartRadio. Also, too, check her out at 102.3 XLC, the afternoon drive. She does the 3 to 7 p.m. drive. That's right. So if you get a chance to go catch her, go check her out, give her some love, give her some likes, give her a phone call, tell her the X-Bomb Boom Crew say what up for her. We're going to give her a call here at some point soon. She's doing an incredible job. Make sure to follow her there. And also, too, make sure to check out the boys at the Parlay. It's our very own Tony Lopez and former Chicago Bull and pro boxer Kendall Gill, as they talk everything in combat sports, which I believe they just dropped some big news, if I'm not mistaken. But they are currently doing some new stuff, and we're going to be doing a little bit of work with them here and there, so be on the lookout for that. And if you want to check that out, that's at theparlay.com. And also, too, guys, if you want to get all your fantasy football talk and everything out there, you want to get all the news, you guys can check out the Fake Football Guys on YouTube. It's where JC and Dustin, our good old buddies, myself and David, produce the show and help them with all the fantasy football news that you need for the offseason and this coming season. We got a show coming up on Friday at 2 o'clock p.m. Central Time, so come check it out at Fake Football Guys on YouTube. And shout out to the boys of the Sharp Action Show. Unfortunately, this week we were not able to do a show with our boys, but if you want to check them out, we are recording these shows, and we are dropping them every Tuesday night and Wednesday, I believe, on their Instagram at Marco Pomani, so you guys can go check them out there. Also at Sharp Action Show on YouTube as well, and check them out at sharpactionshow.com. Whew. Okay, now, with all that being said, I think that is everything. I'm out of breath. We're all hungry, so we're going to get out of here, and we will see you guys tomorrow, where we're going to be talking some more NFL, plus we got to get into that NBA news as well, folks, because I got to tear the Lakers a new one tomorrow. And we'll get into all that tomorrow, ladies and gentlemen. So as always, thank you so much for watching. Much love. Peace out, Boom Crew.